Grand Rising. This is the Straight Talk Morning Show on the Straight Talk Network. My name is Andre Hill. I'm your host, co-host, and engineer. Andre Hill Jr. What's going on, man?
I'm good. I'm good. Peace and love, family. Peace and love.
And we have our chairman. He's the chairman of our Political Action Committee, and he's the senior elder on our United Aboriginal American Republic, a native Aboriginal tribe that's designed to gain full autonomy for our people. So, that's a very powerful position. Mr. Terrence, Mr. Terrence Lake, how you doing this morning, sir?
Oh, Grand Rising, everyone. I feel great. I feel good. I'm just really excited for this show. I want it to be very informative, like always, and people gain some knowledge and some wisdom from the things that we talk about. Thank you.
So, I always ask for the weather report up in Detroit.
Well, it's tropical today. It's probably like 78 degrees. It might get into the 80s. I don't care if it get there or not, as long as it stay in the 70s. Mother Nature's air condition.
Okay, so also we have, for the first time on our show, a brother that's from the geographical location area of my father in the Panhandle, and he's relocated to Tampa, and he is a spiritual advisor to the organization. Mr. Dennis Thicklin, how you doing this morning, sir?
I'm excellent, my friend. Thanks for asking. How are you?
Hey, supernatural.
Nice, nice.
All right, so this is going to be an interesting show. First of all, I'd like to say our book, Lucifer's Revenge, a guide for the 144,000, is starting to sell. People are interested in it. I think the book cover, which my son, I had to give him his kudos, design, it gets your interest. If you look at the book cover and you see these two entities and you're going like, wow, they are like overwhelming, but there's a message in the two entities. So, but we're gonna talk about that throughout the show. But people are very much interested in it. The main thing about this book is it's going to have a profound effect on all humans. It's designed to help all humans understand the true predicament that we're in and how we need to restructure our mind to look at the reality of the universe, this universal community that we live in, and how we're going to adjust or evolve or devolve. And so that's the whole purpose of the book, is to get us all to have at least a side of the truth, so that you can make an informed decision. And that's the whole purpose of the book. So I posted on YouTube, Facebook, what the day's topics, and basically I just had it written out. Lucifer's Revenge, a guide for the 144,000. Dennis Thicklin would give us his Christian interpretation as it relates to the European agenda and their Bible. Also, we had a young lady that we was hoping to come on. She hadn't quite made it yet. Letika. She's a metaphysical person that we will join our nation at some point. But basically, we're going to cross-reference the metaphysical world with the Christian ideologies that was given to us as slaves. And not only was it given to us, but it was mandated. Either we accept these religious ideologies, or they will murder us. And they did that. A lot of our ancestors were murdered. They didn't want to go along, did not want to accept the European Christian ideology. And so that was one of the first steps in how we lost our land, our heritage, our nationality, all of these things. And so we're gonna do some cross-referencing, because a large segment of our population, has been indoctrinated to this system. And when you reach a high frequency in the metaphysical world, you have love for all of your brothers, whether they melanated or not. And you want to establish dialogue because our whole purpose for existing is to establish harmony and balance. So that's why the show is going to go in the direction we're going to talk about, our different views. And I think, Dennis, you had a chance to read some of the book, right?
Yes, sir. It's quite
Okay.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So this is going to be an interesting show because Dennis, he studied the Bible format, and now how does it relate and ties into the information? A lot of it that my son prepared in terms of Enlil and Enki, who were referred to as gods and then converted into different gods, the effect that they had on the planet when they were brought here to terraform the planet and develop the planet, and also the DNA splicing that brought our species to the point where we're bipedal, we're upright, we have the ability of speaking, contemplating, critical thinking, and all of those things, and how those extraterrestrials brought us to this point. So that's the whole purpose of the show. You know what? I think, my son, he wrote a majority of the stories with Enlil and Enki, and how it relates to the Bible and all the other religions on the planet. So I'm going to surprise him and do like I always do, throw the ball and pitch the ball to him, and he's gonna go like, "Well, I wasn't ready for that."
I think I'll be ready this time. So.
All right. Well, the microphone is in your court, young brother. Tell us what you were thinking about when you comprised all those stories.
Oh, that's an easy one. That's an easy one. All right. So, you know what's interesting, Dad, is I end up recounting the answer to your question to a lot of people most of the time because they ask me what was the inspiration behind this book. So this is how it went down. So first and foremost, you know how it happened. You came to me, well, this was about August or September last year, and you said to me, "Hey man, I'm about to write a new book," and you was like, I just need you to add a particular astrological piece pertaining to Lilith, and he said, I just need your help with that piece." And you remember what my response was at the time, because I was doing some real estate projects at the time that fell through, and I was trying to recoup with some other real estate projects, and so I was busy, and I was just not thinking and nowhere near in the direction of authorship at all, right? So, and you remember what my response to you was like, "Hey, Dad, I don't think I got the brain capacity for that right now. So I think I can probably dedicate like 10% of my time towards that." Long story short, whatever download you got, it eventually jumped onto me as well. It eventually jumped onto me, and I ended up pretty much writing the same amount of words for this book that you did, right? So, when you started, elaborating more to me about the concept of John Milton's poem and the angle and of how you wanted to convey the better and elaborate viewpoint of Lucifer, and what really went down with that, I said to you that, well, you know where like the concept of Lucifer came from, and so I said, well, let me dig into what I know as far as ancient concepts of demonic entities, gods, and the such. So I started digging into some of the most, let's say, sophisticated ancient civilizations and their spiritual systems, which European spiritual systems pulled from, or mostly inspired from. And and I already knew before I did that the concept of Lucifer was mostly inspired by either Sumerian, Babylonian, Kemetic spiritual systems. So I get into that. I knew about it in general, but I didn't know the details. And so my spirit team, the ancestors, they said, "Oh no, you need to investigate this. You need to investigate this, and you in particular need to investigate this because you've always had an objective mind for searching for the truth without trying to contort it with your own personal agenda on it." And that is true. The same way I taught myself astrology, it's like I wanted to take it apart and learn it at the core to figure out exactly how it worked. That's what I did with investigating and doing the research on the Anunnaki. So what I end up finding out, and I can't really sugarcoat this, I can only say it straight. So what I end up finding out about the Anunnaki, or let's say the spiritual system and culture of the ancient Mesopotamians, is everything that they revered as far as religion goes it was primarily the main inspiration for every Abrahamic religion. Okay. And I say that with no malicious conviction for anybody who practices the Abrahamic religion, but I say it quite confidently. And it is pretty easy to draw the parallels, lay out the evidence, and make a decent case to say you got to really consider the connections here. So in the book, what I try to do is objectively, without getting into a disrespectful banter of trying to disprove somebody's religion. No, it's more so about making the connections between very key points in Anunnaki mythology and Abrahamic religious context as well. And so, depending on the reader, it may be shocking, controversial. Depending on the reader, it may hurt your feelings, possibly. But at minimum, again, as like I didn't craft it, and then as a matter of fact, what I love about brother Dennis Thicklin is he's always been in our corner, and a very sharp brother, and a very liberal brother. And so I would like to get your feedback on how you feel about, for one, the delivery of it, and then for two, the concepts that were in the book, right? Because that's going to give us a good gist of how anybody who is of any Abrahamic faith is going to respond to the content of this book. All right. But before I get to talking too much, Dad, does that answer your question?
Yeah. I remember the conversation, and I remember you were deep into developing those projects. But one of the things I found out about the guardians of the Most High, when they assign a project to you, their project takes priority over all other more mundane or insignificant projects for survival purposes. So sure enough, they was working on your projects, and they were saying, like, they was trying to get your attention to understand how critical this knowledge for humans. So but yeah, I'm interested in hearing Dennis, based on what he's had a chance to review already. So
he's on the speaker.
you're cute.
Okay, my bad. Can you all hear me now?
Yes.
Good. So should I go ahead and start talking, get my point of view, my feelings, my perceptions?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So when I get excited about something, which I am about, Lucifer's Revenge, and Straight Talk Network, the great individuals here. I may ramble, but I'm going to try to be concise, simple, by starting out like this. At a very young age, I had a spiritual connection and a conversation with whom I believe to be the creator God of everything that I knew at about the age of 8, 9, 10, very young, because I was asking God a question: why this? Why Black people suffer this? Why aren't we close? Why aren't we sticking together? Why don't we love each other? Why? Why are these people saying these things about me? I haven't done anything to them. So, and as the Lord allowed me to live and to this point now. So the Bible, growing up, on a farm, your grandparents, mother, elderly people we go to Sunday school. We hear about, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. I remember going to numerous, I would say, Black churches, African-American churches, and I saw a picture of a guy that they said is who. I'm like, the first time I saw it, it's like a white guy with long hair, blue eyes. They said, "Oh, it's Jesus." Okay, I'm like perplexed. I go to several Black churches. I see this photo, Jesus. I'm like, then I got old enough to read the Bible, and it's the description: hair like wool, feet like bronze. I said, okay, but and so I'm trying to figure it out. I'm asking. So my take on the Bible: you go to the Garden of Eden, where God wanted everything to be a certain way before the fall of man. I say Satan, reptile, maybe Lucifer came in and deceived the original model of a perfect woman. And she gave the man Adam, which he should have said no. And he partook, and then everything was messed up. The disconnection with God, they were revealed, Adam, God walking through the garden in the cool of the day. Adam, why art thou? He said, I hid myself. Long story short. So then I hear the scripture. No, this was what was intriguing to me when I first read the scripture that says in the Bible, forgive them, Father, they know not what they do. And I used to relate that to Caucasian people, or really anyone that did something wrong to me, that they did it because of hatred, anger, misunderstanding me. I'm like, or even this other scripture that pray for your enemies, love your enemies. So then I get to the scripture when I read it for the first time, and one of a very familiar passage of scripture, John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. Then we got a chance to give our life, surrender, and then practice love, unity, not looking at the outward appearance, because God judges the heart. And I sometimes, if I go on Facebook Live, I'll say, red, yellow, black, brown, and white, we're all precious in God's sight. So that's my take on it. I read parts of the Quran. There's a part of the Bible called the Apocryphy that you all probably know about, that was, say, taken from the Bible. There's a scripture that says, I think, well, it may not be scripture, but it says, even if the Bible contained everything about God or the universe, we couldn't even pick the book up, the vast knowledge. So real quick, and I parallel and relate similarities between, Christianity, Muslims, Hinduism. Everyone's looking for answers, peace, a savior, rescue. Why am I here? Where did I come from? What's my purpose? Why this? Why that? So real quick, I took some notes. I read the preface and part of the first chapter of this book, Lucifer's Revenge. I'm going to hit this real quick. Evolve or perish. I love it. Then we're faced with two distinct choices. There are two distinct choices before us. We must elevate our collective spiritual frequency, fostering a just and equitable social structure in a culture that values physical and spiritual freedom. That's the talk I like to hear. Number two, the second choice involves us continuing to persist on the current path, which is categorized by death, deception, destruction, and enslavement driven by AI. Then we're on this journey towards spiritual perfection and evolution. And then this is kind of really intrigued me. Low frequency entities striving to return to the natural order. And then in closing, I think about this, the 7 pillars of society that believers seek to influence. The area of family, religion, education, media, arts and entertainment, business and government. So I never have been, and I'm closing for real, I'm gonna stop. I always have thought about, okay, when Jehovah's Witnesses came to our door, or I see Midianites, Methodists, I never have, and I don't say, okay, they're wrong. They're wrong. What I believe in this Bible is the truth. You're gonna go to hell if you don't believe. I am subjective, objective, open-minded, because I myself don't, some things are still a mystery to me. Astronomy, the signs. I see things in the word that parallels, that speaks heavily on what you all will about here, and even in what I read so far in the book. I hope that made sense, but I'll stop there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So this is what we want to hear, because we understand that we were indoctrinated to a system. And the question is, how true is the system? I want to get the chairman. I'm so used to calling the chairman. I don't use his name a lot. I said the chairman. But before we go to the chairman and talk about his translation, I'd like to say hello to Letika. Andre, you want to introduce Letika and how she comes into the equation?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Sister Letika, also known as Sister Nigist, I put the book. Let me just tell you how we met. So I put the book directly in her messenger, and she immediately responded and said, "Hey, brother, this sounds like a very interesting read, and so interesting that how about we just skip straight to the chase, and how about you come and talk about that on my podcast as well?" And so we did that. We set it up to where I went on her podcast, and we talked about the book. I think that podcast, it went for a while. If I can remember correctly, it was about 4 hours long. I didn't realize I was talking that long about the book. You feel me? So it's like me and her, we'll deal with this, but as far as potentially breaking it up into segments, and whatever needs to happen, right? But so before we did that, of course, you want to have a dialogue with someone before you just hop on their show, and vice versa, whatever the case. And so we talked, and had a great meeting of the minds. Realized, we were pretty much on the same wavelength, and said, these concepts that you wrote in the book need to be revealed to the public, and they need to get out there, even more so than how some other people are putting them out there, because they're being pushed with some kind of ulterior motive. It's like, I'm not going to name drop some of the popular people, out of, let's say, any malicious intent, but what we do see is some people pushing the same type of information that is in our book, but they are kind of giving some misinformation. And I'm saying that because I end up studying the same information and saying, okay, well, some of what they're saying is accurate, but some stuff they just making up. Because it's like, I read the same ancient scripture they read, and I don't see where they're coming up with that extra stuff. And so, and it's, and I like to think that I am a person of discernment when it comes to, figuring out what somebody's motivation is. and it could be a myriad of things, but I'm assuming for the most part, they're either trying to get famous, and tell this elaborate story that's going to make it look a certain kind of way. But the bottom line is it looks like some kind of ulterior motive. But not to get too deep into that, but that's the bigger conversation me and Letika had, and then we said, hey, let's collaborate. But that's the overview of it. But long story short, Letika said, hey, I respect what you put together. I would love to collaborate with you. So Letika is, heavily metaphysical mind, my sister, and Letika, if you don't mind introducing yourself to the world and just giving us anything that you want to tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so I've been podcasting, like you said, for some time now, since about 2015 from the Blog Talk, and then moved it over to the YouTube StreamYard situation. And just over the years, you come across those topics that you said that you're going to be having today. And like you said, the dialogues that we've had, and, I think that I guess it could be a good discussion, especially if a person's mind is open, if the person's mind is not willing to be open, then the discussion is just going to be just that, a discussion, I normally don't like to get on topics like this because people already have their mind made up no matter what you bring to them. You know what I mean? And I think some people are not meant to elevate to a certain level. You may be at 12 and it's meant for them to be at 9. That's why it's hard to get them out of that shift, because that's their destiny, is to be at 9. You see a bigger picture because of the advanced intelligence you have, but they're not seeing that. And we waste a lot of times trying to convince ones that's just not going to be convinced. It's in there. It's a genetic thing now. It's turned genetically now throughout slavery and over the hundreds of years. It's now embedded in DNA. So that's why you keep getting generations of the same behaviors and no changes. Doing the same thing and not getting any changes. And of course, religion plays a big hand in it, because that's how one of the reasons why the slave trade was so successful, because you were able to beat out what they was used to and put in what you want them to believe and what you want them to think. And then we start believing in it. 500 years later, look at us here having this conversation. Different age levels on the panel, but we're still having this conversation. So at some point, somebody has to turn on a light bulb to say, hey, this thing ain't really liberating us. It is on a personal, individual level. Individually, you're getting that salvation and that redemption and that connection, but collectively, community-wise, like how the Deacon of Defenses was operating, they had their spiritual on one side of the table, and then they had their liberation on the other side of the table. And they know when to say, I'm not waiting for Jesus to come back to help my community. I'm going to do it now. You know what I mean? I'm not waiting for Jesus to come back and say, hey, your sins are forgiven. I'm going to live right now. I'm going to live up right now the best way I can. I know I'm going to make mistakes, but I'm going to do this now. I'm not waiting for someone to come back to save me. And the waiting is another reason why we're not getting shit done. Excuse my language.
No. Keep it straight. Keep straight. We call straight talk.
There's no action, because we're waiting. When you're waiting for mommy and daddy to come home and cook dinner, you're waiting for them to come home and cook dinner. They can get home midnight. You're going to sit there and wait. You're not going to go make some pancakes and waffles real quick. Go fix a bowl of cereal. You're going to wait. And that's how we have become as a race of people. We're waiting for something that's inside of us, first of all. That whole Christ concept is us. We are the Christ. It's how we activate it. You can activate it and be a rapist, your lower consciousness, or you can activate it and be, a healer or a philosopher or whatever the case is. But these are topics that I don't really like to get on, because like I said, people still walk away with what they're going to do. Come on now, 500 years later, we still having this conversation. It's obvious that some people are not meant to wake up on a certain level. And we have to, my whole family are coons. Took me a long time to accept that and adjust to that. Now I have to find extended family members. Now I have to find extended, this and that to replace the bloodline, because that bloodline is so toxic. And being a part of it just makes me be in that same toxicity that they're in. So when you cut that energetic bloodline, and you know that the real ones are going to come in your life like family, will treat you like you expect your family to treat you. That's how you know you're kind of like getting away from that generational transatlantic traumatic slave trade syndrome. We're suffering from it. Whether we want to hear this or not, we're suffering from it. It's in our genes, it's in our DNA. Our kids have it, our grandparents had it, the pastor have it. We're sick, genetically sick and spiritually sick, because when you're waiting for something 2,000-3,000 years later that happened, my great grandmother died waiting. So what other grandmother got to die now? Me as a grandmother, I have to die now. So my grandchildren got to wait for me to die now while they're waiting for Jesus. We got to make sense out of this stuff. And we ain't coming together because of religion. We're not uniting because of religion. You don't want to deal with me because I'm not a Christian, or because I tell you Jesus is fake and I'm showing you all these proofs that it's fake and you're still trying to tell me what the Bible said. We're not getting anywhere like that. We're not liberating ourselves from that. We're not doing anything but debating and brain muscling each other, brain wrestling each other on who can know more and who can point out points and stuff like that. It's getting redundant. It's getting boring. You know, I'll be 50 on the 7th, and some of you are probably older than me or twice as older than me. And I'm just telling you from a younger person's point of view to an elder, we're getting tired of this. Your formulas are not working. They're not, and you're not hearing us, yet your formula is not working.
Yeah.
There was a time when the young ones can have a say and can sit on councils at 13 and at 9 and 12 in our African traditions, but we don't want to visit those traditions because it's too much getting your shit organized. It's too much getting together. And we don't want to do that. We want to be individual all the time. We don't listen to the youth. The youth don't listen to us. That's a messed up generation we live in. I ain't come up in a generation like that. I came up in a generation where we listen to the elders. The elders may say it's my way or the highway, but they still hear it. They still heard you. They still heard you though. You know what I'm saying? And you're going to get your punishment. They'll tell you why. And we walk away. Okay, truth. You're not mad. I'm not mad. I got my punishment and I got a treat in the midst of the punishment. Little do you know, you got your ass whooped, but they still giving you a treat for your accomplishments that you did do good in. We don't have those upbringings anymore. We just don't have it. The elders are turning away from the young people as soon as they see them coming. Oh, I don't want to be around him. He needs Jesus. His mama been on crack all her life. We talking down on him. We downplaying him. And that's why they out here killing each other. Because we lost them. Y'all let us go. Because of religion. Jesus said this and Jesus said that, and the Bible said this, the Bible said that, and we're not doing what y'all want us to do. So you purposely turn your back on us and make our life hard, and we end up in jail, and you come with this, I told you so. That's boring. We can't live like this anymore. We just can't. We got to put the religion aside. That's why the Deacons of Defense had arms, because they didn't mix the religion with what reality. What's really happening right now in my neighborhood, you know? There was time for you to go knock on a neighbor's door and get a food, get something to eat. Now they're like, get off my doorstep, get away from here. Blood of Jesus, you know what I'm saying? You start turning yourself crazy over this religion. It turns you crazy. You really look crazy to us. I'm just saying, y'all look crazy to us.
Absolutely. So, Letika, you know, I'm going to refer to you as beautiful Nubian queen. You are the reason I keep getting up every morning with this mission, because I know that there are people out there that are conscious. They see the need for a change, and you know, and that's why you can never give up on them. The chairman, we are elders, and our primary objective is to come up with a matrix or develop a matrix or implement a matrix that's going to change the narrative of continuing to submit to this very petty, childlike white supremacy enslavement system. You know, and so that's the driving force.
Yeah, man, it's retarded. It's retarded. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So one of the things that, and what you said is very true. You know, my son and I, we understand astronomy and astrology. And we understand that in this solar system, there are basic 144 different human personalities. And all of them speak different languages, are motivated by different things. And so by understanding that, we've implemented a formula, an effective one of you don't need 1,000 or 10,000 people to get on board with this. All you need is a few conscious people that understand the assignment. You come together and demonstrate by example, and then the ripple effect comes into
right ones will show up. Right, then the right ones will appear.
Yes, yeah, and so some humans they have to see tangibles. They've been lied to, cheated on, and murdered, and so they're not just taking the work. But when they see a group of people coming together, a group of conscious people who are charged with implementing the paradigm shift, and we manifest what humans refer to as a miracle, then they can see the example. We explain to them, well, how did you do this? Well, first and foremost, we have unconditional love for each other, and we saw the vision and we manifested a dream, whether it was growing a rose or just building a house or whatever the case might be. And then that's when the people in the outer circle of the ripple effect, they say, yeah, I can see this, I can feel this, I can touch this, and they get on board. And that's the way we have to approach this thing. So the reason we said this is a guide for the 144,000, we know that, in the programming and brainwashing from the so-called Bible, it talked about revelations, which means to reveal. In the last days, only 144,000 will survive. It's interesting that that's the formula of this solar system. There's 144 different basic personalities. So it was trying to explain and show the correlation with metaphysics, astrology, and astronomy, which was demonized in the so-called Bible. But all of it has relevance. It's science, math, and spirituality. So we have a formula. But the reason we're doing this show is, one, to serve notice to these low frequency entities. They've had a good run. They thoroughly screwed up the planet. They've thrown the ecological system off, and they're still trying to make a profit so that they can become gods. So we're sending them a notice. Your contract is up. You've done a good job, so back down or you will be seriously destroyed. We're sending a notice to a lot of the naysayers or the doubting Thomases and Thomasinas. This book is out here now, and you can no longer hide behind a maze of I didn't know. And that's the way the supreme being or the guardians of the universe work. They charged us with putting the information out there so that the humans will have an option. Right now, they got all of these religions and doctrines that's making them slaves, and so they use that as an excuse. Well, I didn't know. Well, you don't have that excuse anymore. But so for a lot of humans that this knowledge is out there, and we're not the only ones with the knowledge. But what we offer is a solution. We're not just talking about, well, we know this, we know that. What's the solution? So there's a step-by-step outline of what we need to do next in order to demonstrate to the guardians of the Most High that we are civilized and that we are capable of managing our own planet without this bull crap going on. So, sister, you are a breath of fresh air, and you're the reason I don't give up. And I will continue to get up and fight and until mission is accomplished. Chairman, I know you was listening to Dennis and his transition of awakening. Tell us, the chairman has written a book called God's Child, and we're in the process of getting a documentary on it, and it will happen because all of the people in our collective that are writing books, we're going to develop these stories, because the only stories that these low frequency demonic entities put out there are stories about cheating, murdering, stealing, and a whole lot of drama. We're going to change that narrative by putting the stories of us. but Chairman, can you relate to what Dennis was saying in terms of how you transition from European ideologies to understanding how the universe works?
Yes, absolutely. Well, the Bible is a good book. It has a lot of good in it, but we got to realize also that it was written by man. God did not write anything down in words. Men were inspired by what their interpretation, what they felt God want, but it's still their interpretation. Now, the Bible has a part in it that said, slaves, obey your masters. I don't go along with that, and I don't think any God would go along with that. I don't have a master. You know, I have a creator, but I don't have a master. And that's what we got to realize. And a lot of times we read books, and then later on we find out there's a flaw in it. It's like when I wrote my book, I said that our Caucasian brothers came to Africa and made us build the pyramids. Okay, so this is what I was taught. It was even made movies showing you that Charleston Heston and these guys, beat the slaves and made them do this here. Well, I don't believe that. And now there are books out that's got so much logic and common sense in it. They tells us that there's an extraterrestrial natured people that did the pyramids, and it possibly was through levitation. So we have to open up our minds. We just can't accept everything that we see or read. Sometimes we got to throw a little logic in there. And my mission is to take my book and create a heavenly environment on earth. I'm 77 years old. I've been around for a reason. I've been almost killed a few times, but I'm still here. Most of my friends are dead. I thought that we'd grow old together, but that's not going to happen. But my purpose is to create that heavenly environment where we can all come together and learn how to live in harmony with each other. When you look at the picture behind me, that's the cover of my book. And there's the book itself right here, God's Child. That's everybody's title in the universe. So we all have something in common. We have a creator, and we are part of that creator. That's why we can communicate and do the things that we do. But we've got to learn how to get along together. It's very important. And I feel that if I had 1 out of 10 people that supported me and bought a copy of my book, I could create that heaven on earth and it would be good for everybody, because I'm not talking about just for this group or that group. I'm talking about the whole planet. Planet Earth is a small planet, but some people got little minds and they think, oh, it's really big, like, oh, nothing's bigger than Earth. They look at the moon and they think that the moon are bigger than the stars because they have no concept of the universe. But I'm giving you a concept of the universe, and it's intriguing. But there's a lot of information that people are writing today to take us to that next level. So to help this heaven on earth, it's going to happen. I see it more so now than I've ever seen it. And I could go on and on and on, but like I say, my mission, that heaven on earth, that will be peaceful, loving. We won't have to worry about child molesters or anything else, because we can empower these kids at a very young age. They have the power because the spirit is in them. It's in us all, but we just got to know how to use it. And once we know how to use it, that's curtains, it's going to be beautiful. And the remnants are here. But we got to come together. Now I'll land that plane. I'll let someone else talk.
The wheels are down and the plane is landed. So, Letika, I got to come back to you because I've said this to my generation, me and the chairman's generation, and they've basically just given up because, once again, I had an aunt when I became metaphysical. She ostracized me from the whole family. No, you got to be talking about Jesus and the blind blue eyes, and I had relatives don't even speak to me now because of behind that. But now they're starting to see the United States government been lying, about the involvement with the extraterrestrials. It's starting to unfold, and now they're caught in a tizzy. So yes, our generation, we got caught up, we got brainwashed, and we let the generations behind us, we left them to the enemy, to a low frequency entity that intends to chew them up, rape them, enslave them, and incarcerate them. And that's its primary objective. And we just said, go right ahead and walk into that bear trap. So, I have given up, not given up, I have slowed down my approach to trying to tell my generation, what goes around comes around. The bed you make is the bed you're gonna lie. All of those cliches that whatever condition you leave your children in is what you're coming back to. If you leave your children in a jacked up situation where they're getting beat down every day, enslaved and raped and murdered, you're gonna come back through them and suffer the same consequences. So, in my mentality is give me liberty or give me death, and so I still encourage my generation. Right now, all they have to do is go out and get a copy of the book, and that's the only contribution, because we know you're too afraid to really save your own children. Next week we're gonna do a show. Should the Galactic Council come and take our children away because of negligence? And in the social construct systems, if you're negligent with your children, the state will come take your children away. Well, the Galactic Council is about ready to do that because we just turned our children over. We neglected them and subjected them to this bull crap without fighting. Just sitting back. Well, they're gonna do what they want to do. No, the hell they ain't. When we come together as a collective, as a mindset, and say, no, we rebuke that. You learn that, you speak that from your churches all the time, rebuke the devil and all that. Yeah, well, so now we have that opportunity. You need to come together and make that change. But right now, we have a system in place. I had a conversation with a sister, a metaphysical sister, and she said, well, one of the things with our metaphysical people is that, is fear. So, it's like, well, if we come together and do this, they're going to come and attack us. No, they're not. We have the technology and the understanding, just like that biblical story of the Passover. We can give protection, but only when we come together as one with one agenda to save our children and make this planet a better planet. We will be protected by the same ideology of that so-called Passover. We understand how to make that work. We understand the protocol of getting that protection. The Guardians that we're working with, their technology is far more advanced than any of the United States government, Russia, any of these countries. Right. They'll shut them down once we declare we are the children of the Most High and we're going to do right by each other. Once we declare that, we are protected. And there's a protocol. And for you advanced metaphysical people from my generation, need to get with us. From all the other generations, you know what I'm talking about. We need you in upper management, middle management, lower management, because we are implementing a system to make a difference on this planet. And those 1% mentally deranged maniacs, psychotic maniacs that want to be gods, their time is up. They're trying to hold on to this by eliminating the melanated people on the planet and creating artificial intelligence. And their next phase right now they're bringing in cultures that are submissive to their idiotic religions to replace us, so they can destroy us to make room for their new hosts, because they're parasites. Those 1% maniacs are parasites. And that's the only way they can survive. So yeah, we know what's up. We shut it down. But right now, by buying a book, it helps us to help young people, to get housing for them, to get them out of this demonic system, to start working for our tribal, our nationality, for our spirituality, for our balance, within the universe. And that's where we are right now. Hey, Dennis, you got some more comments you can expand on?
Hey, brother, you got me fired up. Let me be precise and clear. I'm going to go back. We've been hoodwinked, run amok, led astray. The chicken's going to come home to roost. Dr. King, I've been to the mountaintop. I've seen the promised land. The unity. Don't judge me by the color of my skin, but by the content of my character. As I mentioned, I understood at a very early age, it's a spiritual thing. I learned to listen, watch, and look how people interact with each other. So there's something in the Bible that resonates with me. Forgive them, Father, they know not what they do. And like I said, in your book, low frequency entities striving to return to the natural order. So I used to, as a little kid, I'm saying, man, this person thinks they're doing something to me, but really, it's kind of going to backfire on them if they keep acting nasty, cruel, dumb, whatever. It's going to hurt them. You know, if they try to put hands on, I'm going to pick. But even to this point, Brother Terrence, you stole my thunder. Not really, but I meant to say this in the beginning. Slaves, obey your masters. When I read that the first time, I read it again. Slave, I'm thinking, why is this in a book about love? And I'm like, slaves. And I tried to, as I got older, I tried to get different ministers, pastors, evangelists to explain it to me. They tried to unexplain it. It didn't mean this. I'm like, slaves, what is it? My understanding of a slave was of us being brutalized, tortured, tarred and feathered, used, abused. And I'll go back to why did they not want to let slaves read? When we hear this thing, like his story, it's his story. Stuff. I like I said, I read the Bible, I read other books. I'm open-minded. I've gone to university, read this, philosophy, psychology and all this stuff. But to me, I can just, like I said, I had the conversation with the Almighty, the Creator, at a young age, and He revealed some things to me that is more spiritual, the unseen. But when you see stuff with your eyes and hear with your ears over and over again, people trying to say that, okay, this was one thing that kind of messed me up, not messed me up, but made me think, okay, you're not really a human. You're property. You're 3/5. You're subservient. You're inferior. I said, no, I'm thinking to myself, God already told me who I am. You can say that. I'm thinking this to myself at an early age, and to now, right now, I don't care. Okay, let me close by saying this. I worked in law enforcement and corrections, police brutality. The person who gets to get a badge and a uniform, who has hatred and will do stuff to brothers for no reason. I'm like, man, you're supposed to be, I'm thinking, protect, serve, protect and serve. No, you're brutalizing, you're terrorizing. So I give an illustration and I'll close, I'll land the plane. When I was maybe 16, maybe 17, my dad, Raymond Thicklin, he's gone on now. I was bringing him back from his doctor's appointment in Marianna, Florida, Jackson County. A German doctor, Dr. Barton, who was a man of understanding. He used to talk to me. He said, you're a great kid. You're going to go far. He was like, he said, do exercise. He was doing squats in his office. Do this and that. He was an inspiration. So we're coming back from Marianna, Florida on Highway 231. Senior, you know about Highway 231, I'm quite sure.
Yeah.
So coming out of going back from going towards Panama City, 231, all these cars zooming past me. Zoom, I see Georgia tags, Alabama. I'm going about maybe 72 miles per hour. 8 cars is just flying past us. Boom. I said, I know they're going to the beach. So I look in my rearview mirror, I see lights, and I pull over. So the state trooper, I'm reliving this right now. I pull over, he walks over, and my dad said, son, just relax. something like that. And I was already relaxed. The guy looked, he said, he said something like this. He said, son. He may have said, boy, he was talking like down. He said, didn't you see me behind you? I said, yeah, I did. I pulled over, sir. He said, I was behind you for miles. He was trying to make it like I was trying to elude. And he said, why didn't you pull over? I'm thinking, man, the guy could have caught up with me. I said, sir, didn't you see all those cars flying around me? If you were behind me like that? He said, son, don't worry about it. I got you. So his face turned red. He started pulling up his waist by his gun. I think he unsnapped the holster of his gun. And then I said, and my dad said, relax, son, if he's gonna give you a ticket. I didn't get disrespectful. And I looked at him, he was like transforming into like a monster. He was red. I got you. And so all of a sudden, I don't know if I prayed, all of a sudden, his demeanor switched. It was as if he was spooked. He said, he calmed down. He said, okay, just slow down and be careful. Something like that. And he walked away. I think I don't know what happened to him. So I'm like, man, but anyway, I'm on board with this. People need to be educated, liberated, collective economics, thinking it's plain and simple. And I used to think about, okay, if we come together as people, I thought this way years ago, if we find a small group and this expands and we bring more brothers like-minded, just like the Jews work with the Jews, the Chinese work with the Chinese, they stick together. I said, man, when we come together, boom, here comes a bomb, Black Wall Street, boom, they're gonna do this for that. So I'm thinking maybe some brothers and sisters don't want to do it because of fear, we're gonna get annihilated, but I'm beyond that now. So here I am, and let's go and get this out. And we're gonna make a change. And hey, the low frequency people got to get on board. Because I'm not a person of hate. You know, God's creation, red, yellow, black, brown, white. But we're on this planet, on this earth for the same reason, to be happy, to enjoy, to prosper, to grow, and to treat each other with respect and dignity. That's my point of view. I land my plane.
Amen.
All right.
It was a nice ride.
Yes, sir. So as we close out, Letika, you know, we are assembling some young brothers. You know, I tried to convey to them that we left our women unprotected. You know, I know what happened to us through the slave process and how we were disarmed, but we're not there. We're not there now. We have an opportunity to come together to protect our women and provide for our women as a collective action. And you know, I want you, you know, in your final word, to give them some encouragement. You know, at least plant the seed, whether they're ready to wake up now or not. At least you can plant the seed. But one of the things I want all of our melanated people to understand, the book is already out. And the other cultures are reading this book because it's a threat to white supremacy, and they know that they can't survive. They believe that they can't survive without white supremacy. So to all of our melanated people who are still slaves to this system, you need to read this book to understand they're getting ready to change the narrative. And you need to understand why. You need to have this knowledge so you'll say, okay, they're making these moves on us right now because they are fearful if they lose white supremacy, they can't survive. So you know, you can be of service on two levels. One, by buying a book, it will create an administration so we can start hiring our young people to do the research, to start building homes, growing healthy food other than this crap that the Gates people are growing, alternative fuels to help start getting our ecosystem back in balance. All of that, this is what we're doing. So you need to know why your slave master is shifting on you. So go get a copy of this book, Lucifer's Revenge. And so sister, you know, if you had a last word to say to brothers who's supposed to protect you, and here's the reason why we're not asking you to be submissive. You are the foundation of the family. You're supposed to be protected. You are the first teacher. You are the nurturer. And we need to get our men in the mindset that we need to protect you guys and so that you can do what you do to bring balance to our family. What are your last thoughts on this show?
I think because religion is kind of like the topic, I feel like people need to just be more open-minded when it comes to religion, because that's what's keeping the division, you know? I don't want to be married to you no more because you're not a Christian, you know, families break up and stuff like that. It's just, we got to just go to the root of why these behaviors happen. Why are there single mother households? What's going on with the men that this is happening? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. All right. Well, if that's your last word, I'll let Julian close us out. And man, this has been a great show. We're going to coordinate more like this.
All right. I'm going to close it out with some final statements and a shameless plug on, you got to go get this book, our book, Lucifer's Revenge, co-authored by me and my father. And this is the reason why I'm gonna make this short statement, and I'm gonna leave you with it. What we put in this book is not only the revelation of how these parasitic entities have enslaved the entirety of humanity over the last 5,000 years. We put the revelation in there, but it's important to read it and understand how they did it, because the Most High in the universe wants to know that you understood that and that you will not let it happen again, so you don't repeat that experience. That's very important. So you don't repeat that experience, because one thing about this universe and one thing about life on this planet, as hard as it is of a pill to swallow, but when we think about it, if we want to say the Creator knows all, if we want to say that the Creator makes no mistakes, then we have to understand that a lot of the things that we've been through on this planet were, I don't want to say justified, but let's say to some extent allowed. All right. Allowed, and the very truth of it is we're still existing. So we got to give some credit to the Most High, that the Most High consciousness knows exactly what it's doing, knows our breaking point, knows how to keep us from going into complete extinction, knows how to put us through the rows and throws in the ebbs and flows to get to evolution. And so, yeah, we went through a low period over the last 6,000 years, and we learned a lot. Learned a lot about ourselves in particular. We learned a lot about how we need to come together. We know how to be separated. We know how to be separated in the worst way. And what has that taught us? How bad we need to stick together. How important it is to remain together. How important it is to heal ourselves and become healthy selves. And at this point, where we're at now is isolating ourselves from very cancerous cells, and we need to get rid of them. So, the very intricate details that we have in this book is exactly what parasitic entities amalgamated, what technologies, what strategies, what rituals, when, what, who, where, how, and why. So you'll understand that. Also, too, what they have planned for the future, which is this, and we talked about this on a prior show. Where they at with it right now is just like any other parasite. They need food. They need a source of sustenance, and that source of sustenance is us. It's us. But what they also know is their season is up, and they still going to be. It's like they want to exist as well. So they're gonna go kicking and screaming. They ain't gonna just give it up easily. They're gonna go kicking and screaming. In other words, they're gonna test us all the way until the very end. Now, their final ace in the hole, or let's say their last plan of desperation is they got to create some kind of mimic reality to this one, and they want to convince you to join that mimic reality. But again, keyword convince. Can't force you. Cannot force you. You have to convince you. If you notice one thing about the quote unquote devil of the Bible, technically, he never killed anybody, but what he was very good at doing was convincing you of doing stuff.
Mm-hmm. The devil made me do it.
The devil made me do it. The devil made me do it. He didn't technically touch nobody because he understood the consequences to that, but was very savvy, very keen on understanding on how to get you to convince yourself that this is what you need to do. So, as we go forward, and we understand it, okay, so we know their window is closing, but we can't let up and say, they just gonna lay down. No, they have a full onslaught of a plan on getting you to come their route. Again, we talked about this on the last show. AI, virtual reality worlds. In other words, everything that you saw in that movie, The Matrix, they're gonna try to lay that out for you. And it's gonna look real pretty. It's gonna look real pretty for you. Let me give you an example, and just hear how. And the way I'm gonna say it, I'm gonna make it sound real asinine because it is. Imagine you being plugged up to a artificial virtual reality system that interfaces with all of your senses. It seems so real, just like when Neo said in The Matrix, or when Morpheus said to him, he said, "You think that's air that you're breathing? Right? You think that's air that you're breathing?" Or when the mole, the rat that Mr. Smith was talking to, came to him and offered him that deal, and he was eating that steak, and he was just like, this steak is so juicy. And it wasn't even real. Right? They can create that artificial reality for you. They can. But who's going to control that artificial reality? At what stakes, at what measures? And you got to think to yourself, what class system are they going to instill in that reality? You got to imagine it's probably going to be worse than the class system they got existing right now. Right? It's going to be worse than that one.
Exactly.
So the fork in the road is you want to either go that artificial route, that artificial universe where there is no natural evolutionary process, where an overlord of parasites are running that show, calling themselves God, and got you trapped in a loop. Again, transhumanism. They want to be able to download your consciousness onto a damn flash drive. And as crazy as that sounds, that's exactly what it is. I'm not even exaggerating that. They want to be able to download your consciousness onto a flash drive and be able to upload it into a new body for further use later on down the line. What happens to the soul in that situation? Right? The better option is you get with a collective like ours, where we build an alternative, well, not even an alternative, the primary way to live, self-sustainable communities where you live in harmony with yourself and your planet and your solar system and the universe. And you get back in harmony with the natural cycles of the universe and the most high consciousness. And you have what they call that is what is everlasting life is. That is what everlasting life is. Right. So we talked about, y'all mentioned, people having that fear of if we build our own community systems, we ain't got to worry about them coming to come bomb us. We ain't got to worry about that. We ain't got to worry about that. They understand that their window is is so short. And at this point, they don't want to build up any more karmic debt for themselves. Again, those parasitic entities understand cosmology the same way I do. And they understand they only have a window to do the diabolical stuff that they did, right? They only got a window for that. The same way God of the Bible allowed the devil to do things for a certain amount of time.
Exactly.
Only allowed him to do it for a certain amount of time. Then after that, he was like, all right, don't touch nobody else. Don't talk to nobody else. You do, it's gonna be cookies for you, right? And and he had a problem with it, and he tried to push the limit on it and got in trouble for that. That's where they at with it. So that's why they need to try to convince you. Now, so don't worry about that part. All you got to be concerned with is getting right with yourself, linking with people who understand, who have a natural desire for environmentalism, wanting to build. Come link. In other words, that's us. Come link with us. That's what we do over here. That's what we want to do. We're not asking you to be, be completely knowledgeable about exactly how building these communities is going to work. I'd much rather have someone come to me with the will and the desire than have all of the knowledge but not be willing to build nothing.
Exactly.
I'd much rather build with a brother or a sister who says, Andre, I don't know much about this, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Versus somebody coming to me, yeah, I know how this gonna work, but you got to do it my way. They can go live in that matrix because that's how they get down.
And that's how it's been happening for a long time too, that mentality.
That's exactly how it's been happening. And that's why we ain't got nowhere. All right. So saying all that to say this, we lay out that plan. We lay out that entire vision. And Lucifer's Revenge, go to www.lucifersrevenge.net, order you a copy or ebook or paperback. Again, like Pop said, this is not only for you, this is for the salvation of your children. All right. So I'm gonna land that plane there. If anybody got else to say, go ahead and drop it. And then we will call it a day.
Heaven is at hand.
I think you got someone in the chat on YouTube that was talking.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna have to get you on the admin team. You see me over here darting back and forth between these tabs. It's hard to keep up. Peace and love to everybody that's listening to us out there in YouTube land. Peace and love to everyone listening to us in Facebook. We love you. Thank you for the support. Of course, we're gonna get better with the the responding. But we're about to close this one out. It's been an hour and some change. We know y'all's attention spans ain't for so long. But yeah, we love you again.
Peace out.
Peace out. See y'all on the next
Evolve our
Conversation, peace.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Stay
Thank
strong.
you. Glad to have you.
Welcome.
day.
Unity, togetherness, love.
Absolutely.